Hello, hello, hello. Let me just adjust here. And happy Thanksgiving. I hope everyone is doing well today. So, today is Thanksgiving Day. What are you looking forward to most today? Is it the turkey? Is it the sweet potato pie? Is it the mac and cheese? Or is it not just about the food? Is it about seeing and spending time with your family? Are you just happy to have the day off of work, right, for at least one day and to just relax for a little bit? Or do you have a favorite Thanksgiving tradition? Is there something you do every year that you look forward to today in this time of year? Maybe instead you're missing someone this year that reminds you of better times in the past, someone that you miss seeing around that table. For me, Thanksgiving has always been one of my favorite holidays, and a big part of it is because it always reminded me of my now dearly departed auntie, who has been gone for 5 years, going on six in January. So, as a child, and even through my mid 20s, okay, after I had my own child, all right, my auntie would always still make me my own sweet potato pie. She used to make like the little mini pies for me, but then she'd also make me my own whole pie just for me. And I felt so special. I couldn't wait to go over there and to get my own sweet potato pie. And it was delicious and it was always made with love. And like I said, it was just for me, right? But not only the sweet potato pie, my auntie was the most amazing cook ever. All right. To this day, I've never tasted a better mac and cheese. I'm almost like a mac and cheese snob, okay, because she set the bar high in my childhood and nothing has ever been able to compare. All right. And it wasn't just me, she left a strong and lasting memory to everyone who knew her with her cooking. Everyone knew she could throw down in the kitchen, and it wasn't just Thanksgiving. She did all kind. Everything she made was delicious. Breakfast, soul food, Mexican food, Italian, anything and everything she put her hands on was gold in that kitchen. Okay, but guess what? Even though she's now gone, the recipes remain. The food is still good. How is that? Well, I'm going to get into that in today's topic on how to ensure your family's future, how to cement your legacy so that it continues and it remains with those you love even after you're long gone. All right. So now we're going to get into it today, the three keys to ensuring your family's future. And I'll start with number one, the secret of my auntie and how her cooking is still with us today, even 6 years after her passing. So, number one, teach the children. Okay. Pass on what you know how to do to the next generation. My aunt, like I said, she could do it all in the kitchen, all right? But she wasn't so short-sighted or selfish that she didn't teach others and she didn't share that knowledge. She taught her son and her daughter. She also taught her grandchildren. And this was especially critical toward the end of her life when she became too ill to do everything on her own and too ill to even do as much as she could do before. She really relied, especially on her son and on her granddaughter, to help her out in the kitchen. And so just by default, they had to learn in those later years, but that's not where it started. Okay. So now when I go to that house and that side of the family, the food is always good. They picked up on her skills. And by the taste of the food, they picked up well because those recipes remain. I remember earlier this year at her husband, my uncle's birthday party, almost a year ago now. It was way back in January of this year. I went there and I had she had a very famous all of her stuff was so good, but she had this really famous dish, this tuna casserole. And I'm not even a big tuna fan like that, right? It was tuna macaroni. I'm not even a huge tuna fan, but this stuff was so good. It was one of my favorites as a child. I got older. I didn't eat as much fish anymore. I'm still not a big seafood fan, but when I say I tasted that food again early this year and I thought my auntie made it. It was that good. That's how well she prepared it so that even though she's not here anymore, her legacy is still there. The food is still there. You still have that memory of her, right? And everybody's still eating well. Everybody's still good. Everybody's still happy. And that's a memory that they can share and enjoy with her because that's what she passed on. Okay. And I just applied the first key, right, teaching the children to cooking, but the same true. It's a principle. If it's a principle, that means that you can apply it in any realm, in any situation, in any kind of application, and it's going to work. Okay. So I applied it to cooking, but the same is true of sustaining any matter of importance. So teach the children, and it doesn't have to be, again, she taught her son, her daughter, her grandchildren. She taught them as adults too. Okay. So her grandchildren are now almost 30. her children are in their 50s. She didn't just teach them when they were kids, right? They grew into it over the years as well. So she was still teaching them as adults. Like I said, she's only been gone 6 years. So they were still well in their 20s, 40s, right? Learning and picking up from what she knew. So teach them how to manage money, teach them how to maintain a home, teach them how to buy a property, teach them what it means to be a property owner, teach them what it means to be a homeowner, teach them how to do the repairs, the basic repairs, teach them how to make the doctor's appointments, right? The dental appointments, all of that stuff. Um, I use an example of my brother a few times where I was, around. I don't know where I was when I missed it, right? But I was around. But before my father passed away, which is almost 12 years, but before he passed away, he taught my brother how to do a lot of home repairs. Okay, I mean, whole room home repairs when it comes to plumbing, when it comes to electrical, when it comes to ceiling, drywall, like all of that. So my brother can do all that stuff. Like I said, I was around, but I don't remember this, right? But that's something that they shared. That's something that my father passed down to my brother. Okay, that was a very critical life skill because now my brother is a property investor and a developer, and he knows how to do this on his own properties, and he knows how to hire out contractors to do it and know what to look for. That's also key. You don't have to do everything yourself, but if you know what you're looking for and how to do it, you get more bang for your buck when you're investing, and you can invest in the best talent and know that it's going to be done the right way. Okay, but again, it started with somebody teaching. My brother taught that to my father taught that to my brother, right? And that has increased his wealth because, like I said, multiple properties. Okay, so this is the legacy play here. Um, and one other thing I mentioned here is when it comes to teaching your children, because it's going to lead into key two, you have to teach them how to follow the instructions you leave behind concerning your property and your estate. And that leads to our second key, which is tough communication. Okay. Number two, tough communication. Now, of course, it wouldn't be Thanksgiving without tough communication, without tough conversations, right? But instead of the typical banter and fights about politics and the election, that just happened 2, 3 weeks ago, uh, you kind of expect that, right? And no matter where you are on that side of it, in the end, it's not going to benefit the family dynamic and the family legacy. That particular thing, right? So instead of those kinds of tough communications, those tough conversations, engage in the really tough ones, which are the following, okay? Not exhaustive, but just an example of what to actually talk about that is even tougher than these election results, all right? What's going to happen to the family after you pass away? Um, if it's grandma around the table, what's going to happen after grandma passes and she's engaging in this conversation, right? Or you're just kind of noticing some things. Have those conversations. What's going to happen? And you're not bringing that about, right? It's never a desire for anything that you don't want, but it's always in preparation of the inevitable, okay? So what's going to happen after so and so? What's going to happen after this family um, dinner, right? What's going to happen to the family? What's the future of the family looking like? How do you want your affairs to be looked after? Who do you want to be in charge of those affairs? How do you want that person to care for others, right? How much money is at stake? How much property is at stake? Talk about money, talk about property. Okay, you're sitting around the family table and so's home. Maybe you go home hopping every year. Talk about that. All right. We shy away from money and property. Talk about those things because that matters when it comes to the strength and the security of the family and the legacy of the family. Okay, we have multiple generations in one house around the table here. Talk about it, keep it going. Okay, how to look after the next generation. What are you going to do? These are just a few questions to think about. Again, this is a non-exhaustive list of questions to consider, but if you don't have these conversations, if you don't make these decisions, you better believe somebody will step up with an agenda, okay, of control that will dominate all others. It happens all too frequently. Okay. Even if there's some conversation about who's going to be in charge, it's not because they're in charge. Okay. It has to be to an end. Now, I've seen it where, and this always happens with kids, it's always the siblings, they're always adult siblings. Okay. Like 50 years young. That's the young end. 70 on the old end. Okay. Older end. These are grown adults where, one of them is in charge, and now they are just exerting their authority on everybody else. That is not the purpose of being in charge of someone's estate, okay? It is not to exert your control and influence. It is to do their will because they're not here anymore. And if their will is to look after everybody, that's what you do. Do not punish and, be punitive about it. That's not the purpose. So that's why I said, how do you want others to care for that? How do you want that person that you named to be in charge to care for everybody else? So everybody is benefiting. All right. That happens. In the alternative, without having the conversations, without giving the clear direction and guidance, then chaos and confusion set in, and it leaves everyone to fight for it and figure it out for themselves. All right. Ignorance is not an excuse in the eyes of the law. Be sure you're not leaving a mess of confusion so that you can continue, or maybe even finally for the first time, establish peace and order in the family trajectory. Okay? And we'll talk about an example with this final key. Key number 3, transcend conversations. What does that mean? Put it in writing. Don't leave it by word of mouth. All right? When your will is in writing, it is harder to overturn. It is clear what your intentions are, and everyone is not guided by uncertainty. They're not guided by a bias or a memory that is not quite accurate about what you said. Okay. This is especially not just important, but especially required when it comes to property, when it comes to real property, when it comes to land. All right. Homes, investment properties, vacant lots, okay? Any land. You cannot pass down real property, land, by word of mouth or orally. It must be done in writing, okay? It's a legal principle. It's called the statute of frauds. Uh, it's certainly true here in Michigan, and you can check where you are around the United States, okay? But it's a general legal principle. Cannot do it. Land has long been and still is the most valuable and appreciable asset anyone can own or manage. No matter what the economy is looking like, if it goes up or down, the land is always going to have value. All right. And if you write out the downturns, it's going to come back up. I'll give you a quick example before I continue just on this point. Back in 2008, right in the midst of that recession, Great Recession, right? My father purchased a property next door to us that had been unstable for a while. We had a longtime neighbor there in my childhood. It was very sweet. She passed away from an aneurysm, and then after she passed, the home just kind of kept going through different hands. And it was frustrating at sometimes, right? They weren't always the best neighbors. So finally, during the midst of that recession, 2008, I was a young woman in college getting ready to go to law school. My brother was a high school senior. He's getting ready to go to college, right? So my father has, at least for my brother, he has to, worry about sending a whole child to college. Instead, what he did was he bought the house next door. He bought the house exactly next door to us in 2008, midst of the Great Recession. For I think 20,000 is the most he bought it for, an entire house. This is a 3,000 square foot house, okay? It's not a joke, okay? The entire property, he bought it. Straight cash, just bought it. And it has been in my family ever since. Okay, this was again 2008, Great Recession. Downturn, right? Everything is tanking, but now we're in 2024. That property is worth 10 times what he bought it for on the low end, okay? That's 10 times the wealth in the family. And he did that. So that's how valuable land is. That's why it's so important. Everything has to be done in writing. You can't just talk about what you're going to do. You got to put it into writing and put it into action. Okay. So again, because of this, it is not enough to tell the kids, adult kids too. All right. We're talking about, like I said, the youngest I've seen is 50s. All right. 50s. So it's not enough to just let them know that you want them to have the property, that you want them to have the house, and you want them to share it all equally. Always put it in writing. And I'll give another example of this that just happened recently, maybe a month or so ago. Okay, I was in court. I was waiting for my case to get called. And the very first case that came up was a case about property, okay, a family home. Um, Matriarch had passed away about a year ago. This was not just mother, but she was mother, grandmother, great grandmother, okay? All of her adult siblings, or excuse me, all of her adult children, they're all siblings. There's at least 5 of them. It might have been 6. Again, like I said, they're all at least in their probably 60s because some of them were grandparents and great-grandparents, okay? And they're on the court record fighting about who's gonna be in the property, who's gonna get what. One of them was trying to kick out, legally evict, which she went through the process legally, to evict, uh, some grandchildren out of the home. But it didn't fully go forth, even though the order's out there. It was never executed properly for some reason. And then all of the other siblings, right? Like I said, the 50, 60, maybe even 70-year-old siblings, all on the record saying, "This is not what we want. Okay, this is not what our mother wanted." But there was no legal way to prove it because there's no will. It's not in writing. Okay? So again, that's where kind of you can see both sides of the one. There was one sibling just taking control, right? Everybody else is just out of the loop, but they don't want this. And there's just chaos, there's confusion, there's family dysfunction, there's family contention because now you're threatening to kick out family, right? Legally. But nothing is in writing. So it's up to the court to make a decision. That's the risk you run of not putting it in writing and just having the conversation stay at the table. Okay? The same goes for your money and all other property. Put it in writing. When it comes to bank accounts, select the beneficiary and put it in writing. This is easily done online through most financial institutions. That counts. Okay, a lot of electronic communication now qualifies for that writing per the law. All right, so it's not like you have to physically always write out what you want. Um, if you can do it through the bank, they always have a way to do that. You can ask and let it be known. Or like I said, go online. There's always a function to do that. The same applies for retirement benefits, life insurance policies, any other funds you can leave a beneficiary on, do it. That is your writing because you're expressing who you want that to go to. All right. For just about anything else, you can use estate planning tools to clearly communicate your intentions. So if you want to remain private, you can use a trust. You can use those beneficiary designations we just talked about. Those work pretty well. Um, and you can also retitle property to allow it to bypass the probate process. Never do it alone. Always ask for a professional to help you because there are very significant consequences. Again, we're talking about the most valuable asset there is, land. Okay, it can be done, but I would just advise to exercise with caution. Okay, just general advice, not my specific legal advice. But if you want to do it and have it done right, ask a professional. Okay. And if you just want to be clear, if you just want to clearly put your directions in writing and who's going to get what, how you want it to go, you just want to make it known this is your will, then just a simple will work fine when it comes to estate planning. A will, it works fine to delineate your wishes. It just doesn't avoid the probate process, okay? And that can be the downturn because it can cost a lot more time and have a lot more kinks in there than you would like. All right, so there's always a quid pro quo, always a risk benefit analysis, but the the important part is to put it in writing to make it be known. Okay, whatever you do, don't leave it at a conversation at the dinner table over Thanksgiving 2024, and that's where it stays. Don't do that. Okay, so keep that in mind. Just know always too that during this season of peace, right, and rest and family and joy and gratitude, make sure your lasting legacy is the same. Make sure your lasting legacy is peace and order as you establish for the first time or continue your family legacy. All right. With that in mind, we are here to help you. I'm Attorney Patterson here in the state of Michigan. I'm a licensed attorney. We do estate planning. And right now we have our Thrive annual review so we can get you set for 2025. If you haven't considered any of this before, you can check the link in the description of this channel and set up your appointment. We do have some, I don't know how many slots remaining for December, but you can check it out if you require any assistance in this matter. We're here to help you. Okay. And finally, I want to thank you. Thank you for watching. We encourage you to share, to like, comment, subscribe. Give us your feedback. Let us know. on this video what you liked, what you like to see more of. All right. And last, whatever you do, please have a very happy, joyous, and restful Thanksgiving holiday. All right. We will see you next week in December as we continue to wind down 2024 and welcome the best year yet, the new year of 2025. Okay. Take care and enjoy.